Aloha kako. Welcome and good evening. My name is James Eustace, and I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. Thank you for those joining us online tonight for our regular monthly Waimea Community Association town meeting. Tonight, we'll be hearing important updates and discussing issues relating to the challenges our community faces during this time. And we are grateful to be joined by representatives and leaders from our state, our county, and our community. I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You may also find relevant information and resources on our website at waimeatown.org. We strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. And at this point, I'd like to recognize the WCA board members, our Vice President, Michael Donnelly, our Treasurer, Jeremy Madrid, our Secretary, Nancy Carr Smith, and our directors, Riley Smith, Lonnie Olson-Chong, David Greenwell, and Patti Cook. On behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, we are grateful for the support shown by you, the community, to hold these virtual town meetings during this time. And I'd also like to thank, on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, the recent recognition we received. We are extremely grateful and humbled by this honor. We will continue striving to connect and collaborate with community members, organizations, businesses, and our elected leaders for the benefit of our neighbors and families. Mahalo nui. And much like last year, we will continue to hold town meetings in this virtual setting with our aim to provide you a connection to community leaders and an opportunity to learn about important and relevant information. Thank you all for your interest in joining us for our past meetings and for viewing and sharing our recordings. You're welcome to revisit these videos up on the WCA Facebook page or even up on our YouTube channel. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. If you would like to support the work that we have done and help continue our effort in connecting with our community, you're more than welcome to donate and join as a member. If this is something that interests you and you would like to receive more information, please email us at waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com. or visit our website at waimeatown.org. On our website, you will find an option to contribute and join digitally, and you are welcome to mail us a membership form if you prefer. Your contributions and membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting and support the work that WCA has done over the past 60 years. Mahalo. And as mentioned, and per our agenda, tonight we'll be hearing some important updates from community leaders and our elected officials. We will begin this evening with a brief conversation with our Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Josh Green. We will then have an opportunity to learn about a couple of community updates, including a community policing report from our South Pauole District Acting Police Captain, Robert Pauole, updates from our 2 county councilors representing Waimea, and some words from our April nonprofit spotlight, Friends of the Future. We will then continue our conversation about COVID-19 and vaccinations with a number of medical providers here in Waimea and on the west side of Hawai'i Island. And throughout the evening, we will also be joined by well-known and respected community members to share their thoughts regarding vaccinations. This evening, we are grateful to present you with a full and informative agenda. And after we hear from these officials and leaders, we've allocated some time to share your questions with our presenters. We do appreciate the community members sending in their questions ahead of time, and we will also try and capture some of the live questions for this portion. Please use the Facebook chat to pose your live questions, and we'll do our best to share them. Thank you to our WCA board members, Patti Cook and Nancy Carr Smith, for joining me this evening and presenting these questions. So at this time, I would like to start off our virtual meeting by welcoming back Lieutenant Governor Josh Green to discuss with us and share the state's ongoing approach to COVID-19, state vaccination efforts, and any of the challenges presented. We are honored and grateful to have you join us again, Josh. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. It's really my pleasure. May I share my screen? Is that okay, James? See, I had to fight him to call me Josh, for God's sake. All right. Let me see if I can figure this out. Forgive me. Okay, I'll be right there. So, okay, so things are, they are improving overall. It is still touch and go with COVID. And since we last got to update one another, and none of this is April Fool's joke or anything of the sort, we are doing okay. We still have 6 to 8 weeks of possible bumpy roads ahead, but our immunity is increasing very significantly. And that's probably the most important message I can share today. Couple quick updates, just so you see where we've been. And we've talked about this before. This is for last week. We continue to have the lowest confirmed rate of infections in the country. So even though there are moments where it seems to pop and scare people, for instance, on Maui, where the numbers have been higher, we still have the lowest rate in the country, which I guess is hard to believe because, it's daunting in a lot of different places, but we're doing okay. If you look at, of course, the entire period of the pandemic, you can see how low we are, again, as compared to every other state in the country, which is a blessing. And it's really your hard work and the hard work of everybody to keep the rate down. This last week was a little tougher because we did have some fatalities. And though that number and rate has slowed significantly, the good news is other states have also seen a very significant slowing in their rate of fatalities. That's dropping off. That's mostly because the elderly across the country, as we say kupuna, of course, but they are vaccinating their people, so they're not seeing fatalities of their elders. And this is dropping and will drop across America very steeply in the coming weeks. If you do look at the mortality rate across the entire pandemic from March 7th of last year through, I think this is updated as 4 days ago, you can see, again, we have the lowest mortality in the country, which is, again, testament to the good healthcare that people are delivering and to most of our strategies being the right ones. A couple quick flashes. Again, like I compared last time to January 5th, which was after the COVID surge over the holidays, Christmas, New Year's. I compare that to April 1st, and it's important because, of course, we're about to head into Easter. I'm not trying to pick on Christmas and Easter, but I'm just saying as holidays go and people will be home and gather potentially. We had 105 individuals on January 5th that were hospitalized. As of today, we had 39. Our statewide average cases was just under 140. That number, actually, that's our count today, 114. Our statewide average is 99 right now. So we are down as compared to January 5th. The positivity rate is about half of what it was right after the holiday surge. You can see that the numbers on Maui have spiked up a little bit. They've been having clusters attached to their prisons, one church, a couple restaurants, and it has to be dealt with. So we are sending in more masks. 15,000 additional vaccines are going in. But really, it's going to just have to be people not gathering in large groups. That's been the outlier difference between Maui and, say, Big Island, where we've done a very good job keeping the numbers down. Kauai, of course, has been closed. And city and county of Honolulu, even though they've opened up to tier 3 and there are large gatherings, you can still see that their counts are down 30% and their positivity rate is more than half lower. So this all bodes fairly well for us because every day we're getting more immunity. This is the prevention. We've continued to have good prevention numbers. I haven't updated this slide for some time. We've been in the 90 percentile for mask wearing amongst our residents. I can't say quite the same of tourists, but on the other hand, they have recently been screened with the pretest. And the recent study in Lancet, which is probably America's preeminent scientific journal for medicine, been going since 1823, showed that a pretest, a 72-hour pretest, decreased by 88% the possibility that someone would be positive for COVID and travel. Interestingly, that was the PCR test. If you did just an antigen test, it decreased by 86%. So antigen tests were almost as good as PCR tests and probably would have been sufficient and much less expensive and more easy to persuade people to do. But that's important because we've been able to use safe travels and we now have over 2.1 million people that have come to Hawaii. As of yesterday morning, we had 623,000 shots done by our state and another 111,000 shots or doses given by the military. So 734,000. We'll touch 750,000 by tonight. So 750,000 shots have gone in, and they've gone to the most vulnerable population that we have, which is our elderly, our healthcare community, and our first responders, plus now teachers and other groups that have been happening since. And that's why the rate of COVID amongst our elders has become the lowest group as far as age groups go in the state. So 65 and older now has the lowest COVID rate as compared to the much higher COVID rate, which is 18 to 44. Here's where we are today. We're in 1C, and you're hearing news kind of come rapid fire. You can see how many vaccines we've done, how many we've received. So we have about 200,000 doses available. People are scheduling as fast as we can now for second shots and, of course, first shots under some circumstances. And you can tell that we have to ramp this up, and that because we're having a harder time finding people to vaccinate, we've given the counties the capacity. When I say given, I mean it should have been done long ago. I don't want to sound so paternalistic. You know, I'm actually a supporter of Big Island more than anything. But we've given the green light from the Department of Health for anyone in the neighbor island communities, because we have very different communities, vaccinate which populations they feel they have the capacity to do. And that means that essentially the Big Island is opening, my understanding, to everyone come Monday. And that means that the hospitals will be able to provide a lot more scheduled shots. Here's another reflection of people over 50 and under 50 for the percentages of shots. Something that I learned, exactly 1/2 of the population is 60 years or older, and exactly 1/2 is 60 or under. That's the median age in Hawaii. So we are endeavoring to err toward the side of our kupuna, but now we're opening up to other categories and the essential workforce. Here's Hawaii Island. Technically, it's been 60 and older, those on dialysis, those with respiratory disease or undergoing chemo, plus essential workers. And the flexibility has now been, activated. So that's why we're going to vaccinate everyone much faster. We're also going to get a lot more Johnson & Johnson in the coming weeks. And as I wrap up, expect on May 1st to go to every adult statewide per the president and per your lieutenant governor. I'm going to push as hard as possible so that there is not a single person that is denied the opportunity to sign up by May 1st. It's critical for us. Under age 16 will come later as an option, and we're going to assess that data really carefully for our keiki. But it does look like the data suggests the age 12 to 16 is fine in the Pfizer vaccine. I'm kind of looking forward to hearing if any of them offer a single dose recommendation for children. I think that would be a little bit more civilized. So that's where you can go, our hawaiicovid19.com, and do the social media thing with me if you don't mind, and I'll give updates as well as I can. But I thought I'd stop there in case you wanted to direct a few questions, James. It's totally your call. But that's the brief update. And I would expect that as I come back here, I would expect that about May 15th, when we've had 2 weeks of an opportunity to vaccinate much larger groups of people across all age categories statewide, we will see a precipitous decline in cases of COVID. And we'll also, about 10 days to 2 weeks later, see an absolute drop off of cases in the hospital. So I won't say that the pandemic will be over on June 1st, but I will, I'll bet $1 that we will have very few cases, unless we get a bad break with a variant, that we will have very few cases by July 4th. By then, we should be in the clear. You'll hear a lot more about vaccination passports and that process. Really, all that's necessary, because I don't believe people will defraud us, is to show a card. But we'll see what I can get the governor to agree to, and others. That is probably the best way for us to allow for some travel here with some safety. And we will, of course, tell people if you do try to scam us, we're going to hit you with a misdemeanor violation, which carries a $5,000 fine and a year in jail if you're really unlucky. So I doubt very many people would travel and fake a card and come to Hawaii with that circumstance. But I think we can really normalize our lives in the next 2 months. We just have to keep people wearing masks and avoiding very large gatherings until then. We should be okay.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, we'll definitely spend a couple minutes here, and I'd like to welcome in Nancy and Patti that might have a couple questions for you.
Of course.
Sure. Thank you. I'll start. Hi, Josh. Thanks for being here again. We always appreciate you joining us. A couple of things I've heard on the news the last couple of days. One was that fully vaccinated people cannot transmit COVID. Is that true?
They can still, but at a much lower rate. So fully vaccinated people still have a 5% chance actually of catching COVID and being unlucky if they're in the unlucky group that didn't get immunity from their vaccine. Also, individuals who are vaccinated can carry very low viral loads. However, if people are wearing masks around them, or if the viral count is so low in their community, you won't see spread. It's really unlikely. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if Billy and I are sitting across from one another and we've both been vaccinated, the likelihood of us transmitting anything is utterly low. And on top of that, if one of us is wearing a mask, I would say it's functional zero risk. If both of us are wearing masks, it is zero risk. So that's kind of the way to approach it. So we don't want we don't tell people this too broadly that that we're going to just give up on our mask mandate, because there's two challenges. One, there's a small risk, as I described, and two, there's lying. So a lot of people just don't want to get vaccinated, but they also don't want to wear a mask. So maybe 15 or 20%, and it's just too easy as an excuse. So we're trying to avoid that. Yeah. However, once we get into summer, I would expect a large discussion to happen about being able to be outdoors without as much need for mask wearing. Certainly by the time we can declare herd immunity, there will be changes, and it'll probably be in outdoor settings first and then ultimately indoor settings.
Okay. I was also wondering, I did want to ask you about the vaccine passport, but, and you said that we'd be hearing more about that. Can you share with us what you're hoping the governor will do?
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll agree by mid-May to use whatever technology, or kind of the old school way of showing a laminated card. Either one would be satisfactory to me. Of course, we have some partners that are working on the vaccine passport from an app standpoint, where they have to access vaccine registries or the VAM system, the vaccine management system, VAMS. It's a little more complicated than one would think, because you're trying to maintain HIPAA compliance, and also there is some data in there. There's people's birthday, and there's other data that could be shared, and addresses and so on. That's why I like the old school method very possibly. I'm thinking about this a lot better, because if I show you my card, you will only see my birthday and my signature. And when I got the shot, you can't get anything from that you wouldn't get from my plane ticket, actually. But as soon as I let you into my health system, you know what happens. People steal stuff. So we probably can crack that code, but I'd like him to approve it. Gov is very conservative. I'm not very conservative. So, we'll work it out. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen probably nationally. I just wanted us to be ahead of everybody.
Okay.
I don't mean conservative in that way, Tim, anyway. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Patti?
You bet.
Oh, Patti, make sure you're muted there. Sorry.
Get it yet. Thank you. Thanks for being with us, Josh. I work at a school, and so children and kids, and getting kids back into class is so important. And we really appreciate the fact that our teachers were on the 1B category, and so many of them are now vaccinated. It makes a huge difference in their willingness to get back to work. But recent studies also indicate tremendous success with vaccinating children. Could you talk a little bit more about what point we can start incorporating them?
Yes.
Really looking at the fall. Thank you.
You bet. I would expect that by July 1st, the Pfizer vaccine will be approved for children, and Moderna will probably follow. I don't know who else will get emergency use authorization, but that would probably be sufficient. Like I mentioned, I'm hoping that one dose will be sufficient. They're testing that right now, just because it's a little more difficult to convince one of our keiki to take 2 shots. You fool me once kind of thing, right? But I think that they'll take it. I can tell you that we're inclined to have Maya, who's 14, have the shot. Sammy's 10. It may not happen. We'll see. But I think 12 to 15 will help us, because teenagers make out a lot and they spread virus.
Thank goodness. We don't have teenagers. Another question, though, would be talk a bit about the variants and the chances are of it impacting our immunity.
Yes. So the variants, the big picture, and this is the scary part of the picture, is for every few million cases, that's another few million opportunities for the virus to mutate. Every single time it's replicating in anyone's body, it can mutate. It usually takes critical mass of a variant to spread, but it always starts somewhere. Starts with 1 or 2 people, and then in that family, it catches hold and you get unlucky. That's what happened initially when COVID broke out. It was a variant of some other virus that just didn't do anything. And these new variants are a little more disconcerting. We have had them. We had the UK variant and the South African variant. South African variant is the worst one to get because it is a little bit more resistant to treatment. However, it has been more suppressed than the California and the UK variants that spread a lot. All of the vaccines apparently are working adequately to add enough immunity, that is enough antibodies to fight this off. And we are likely to see all of these variants in every corner of the country on some level. However, as the viral load drops off back, say, down to 15 or 20,000 cases a day in the country, the whole country, the virus will finally burn out no matter what variants are out there. We just don't want it to take anybody out. You don't want to be the last guy to die of COVID, just like you don't want to be the last guy in Vietnam, you know? So that's the key, right? So that's why we're telling everybody, please wear a mask until we lower the viral load enough that none of these variants can catch on.
Great, thank you. It's all yours, James.
Okay, thank you. I know we're running out of time here with you, Josh, and I don't want to keep you too late here. I did have one question. I think you've answered a lot that have come over the live feed here. One was a very specific one about social distance spacing for particularly performing art venues and performance spaces. And if that was, there were some ideas about opening that up a little bit as some other states have done.
That's actually first time I've had that question, but I do have an opinion about it. So for short stretches, we've decided, and it was probably a decision out of convenience, that kids could be just 3 feet apart if they were wearing masks or doing other mitigating factors. The same would apply to musicians or performers. However, if someone's singing, if it's a vocal orchestra, choral, in other words, you're going to spread COVID if somebody's got it. So in those cases, I would err on the side of making sure people are at least vaccinated before I would do the before I'd have the choral performances. Or you could, although it's horrible, separate people with the plastic and do it that way. But not going to be masks, probably. I mean, then everyone will sound like me singing.
Well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. Any last words you'd like to share with us this evening?
Nope, just you guys are doing a great job on Big Island. And I particularly appreciate everyone who's been a part of it. I see a bunch of our law enforcement friends, and you guys are great. And I know that you have to be out there in a lot of people's faces. Sometimes they're not wearing masks, and so you take an extra risk. Same thing for everybody. A lot of nurses did too. So thank you for that. You guys are cool. But everything else is going basically the right direction. But we only have 27.1% of our people vaccinated right now. That's going to leap up in the next 60 days. So people who think this is over, it's not. It's just not as risky for our vulnerable populations. And if we remember that, when I see you again in May or early June, we're going to be in a really good spot.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate all your time spending with us here this evening, Lieutenant Governor. It's great to be with you and share Mana'o with the community. Thank you for your leadership, and we appreciate all of your time. All the best to you.
You bet. Thank you, everybody.
Mahalo.
All right. And so and kind of in that same vein, we have a couple of community members that will be sharing a few testimonials. So I'd like to start off this evening by welcoming Kahu Billy Mitchell to join us on the call and kind of share a few words with the community here. And Kahu, I'll make sure you're unmuted there. I'll try that again. Kahu, you're still muted there. If you could unmute yourself. Sorry.
Aloha again, everybody. I just want to say aloha to you and Josh, and tell you that I got it. I got my 2 shots at Queens, North Hawaiʻi. All went well. I didn't scream, even after the 2nd shot. But I too join a collective voice, not only here, but around the world. I hear people around the world trying to get the message out to get the shots. And so, although we're here and our efforts are concentrated, I joined many people to try to stomp on this virus so it doesn't come here and blow up in our community. So, you know, I hear some people that just can't get the shot. Josh, for some reason or another, and I feel bad for them, but I think that's between them and their doctor and whatever they're doing with their lives. But by and large, in our churches in our town, everybody's complying, listening, and when they can, they're getting their shots. And I think the attitude is to do what is right. So I just say to everybody, thank the town, the doctors, and everybody who are making this effort to do this together, to do what is right for our population. And I ask God to please continue to bless us in this effort, because I find good and willing hearts involved in this all around. So thank you all. Amen.
Mahalo Kahu, thank you so much for your words there, and appreciate your leadership in the community. Thank you.
Aloha to you, James.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, as we move kind of into our community updates here and announcements portion for tonight's meeting, I would first like to welcome Susan Maddox with Friends of the Future. Waimea Community Association will be highlighting for our April nonprofit spotlight here. Donations earmarked and received by WCA will be targeted for Friends of the Future. So anything that we receive off of our website or in the mail that's targeted for Friends of the Future, we'll be sending their way. So thank you so much, Susan, for presenting some updates and joining us here this evening.
Thanks very much, James, and hello to everyone. Kenneth Brown founded Friends of the Future in 1991, and it's a 501c3, as James said. It's based here in Waimea. Kenny believed in the community's ability to both identify issues and to create the most appropriate solutions so that we could all enjoy a really thriving quality of life. It's been my honor to serve as the executive team leader for Friends of the Future for the past 25 years. During that time, Friends of the Future has provided a home for more than 80 community-based programs, and currently there are 18 active programs. And while Friends of the Future may not be particularly well known, many of our programs are. Tutu's House, Waimea's Community Health and Wellness Resource Center, has been part of Friends of the Future since 1994. If your children or grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or neighbors' children attended any of the 21st Century Community Learning Center activities at Waimea Elementary, Waimea Middle, Honoka'a High and Intermediate, and Pauole School anytime between 2014 and 2020, that was a Friends of the Future fiscally sponsored program. Perhaps you volunteered during the reimagining and renovation of a Nui Nui playground, or again, your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or neighbors' children play that on that playground now. That was a Friends of the Future fiscally sponsored program. To learn more about Friends of the Future and its many programs, or to make a donation, you can visit our website at fofhawaii.org, or you're welcome to call me directly at 885-8336. And now I'm pleased to turn this over to Val Hanohano, who will share some specific information about one of Friends of the Future's most recently fiscally sponsored projects, the Grab and Goal Community Program. Val, all yours.
All right, Val, yeah, there we go.
Thank you so much, Susan, and I'm glad to be part of this conversation and committee meeting tonight, because I saw you, I guess a few months ago. It was a wonderful, wonderful reunion. I want to also acknowledge that Friends of the Future had a great hand in helping Kanu'okaina, a new Century Public Charter School, take off the ground. They had programs there that our students were going to. So we're ohana, and I really appreciate that. Also, the Grab and Girl is something that actually came or developed from a program called the Rescue Food Program that started in 2017. And of course, Susan and Friends of the Future they also provide the physical support, sponsorship, because what Grab and Grow does is every Friday at 4:30 at Pauole Manikia Park, they distribute or give food to the community, the people who need food. And this program is actually a year now, right? It'll be Grab and Grow started on April 3 last year, 2020. You know, I want to put a shout out to Donnie Shather, Taffy Weiss's mom, because she's a trooper, and she got me involved. And we have such a wonderful core of volunteers that show up every Friday. The atmosphere is just full of aloha. It's just amazing. I go there just because I love to vala'o, and also help. And so let me finish. This is what the message that Johnny wrote. And so I want to make sure that I deliver this. Grab and Grow is a critical, this is a critical COVID emergency community food program for Waimea to mitigate food insecurity for community residents. In keeping our restaurants and other food establishments open and their staff employed, this program, with the help of Friends of the Future, buy prepared meals for Grab and Go weekly distribution. It's a wonderful program. And anyone who has free time, and I'm looking at a lot of you, and I know you're very busy, but if you ever want to just join us tomorrow, Friday, we will be there at 4:30, and we're going to be passing out food. I have something to share, and I love this. Oh, by the way, to date, Grab and Go has distributed over 20,000 meals to those in need. Hulo, pai kolima, pai. Everybody, mahalo. I'm a person who loves phrases and quotes. And this one just stands out. Every morning before I go to work, I always look at this on my wall. And I'm going to share with you. Aloha. Aloha is more than a word, it's a spirit, a way of life, a warmth and caring with no obligation in return. Our Queen Liliuokalani, these are some of her famous words that we have posted at Kanu'oka'aina. This is what she says about aloha. Aloha is to learn what is not said, to see what cannot be seen, and to know the unknowable. And I'll tell you why I shared it, because I wasn't going to share that. But as I gaze at the people who are here, all of you, Claren, Nancy, Dr. Ah Loy, Chris, this is the first time I see you, my friend Susan, and of course, Patti Cook, James, Makela, Tim, Heather, our police officers, and Dr. Madison. That's what it's all about. It's all about aloha. It's all about caring. And thank you for caring, and thank you for being a part of the Waimea community. I got the message, James. Thank you. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Val. And thank you, Susan. Really appreciate you spending some time with us here this evening, both of you. And grateful for all the work that you do here in the community to support one another and help one another, especially during this time. And continue a lot of these programs that we've all used, all of our keiki have used. So thank you so much.
Mahalo.
All right, so at this time, I would like to welcome, and I think they're on the call now. Yes, I would like to welcome in our acting captain, Robert Pauole, and I'm going to give him a little moment here to introduce his new and fellow community policing officers who will be supporting the South Pauole district here, and he will also be providing a community policing update. Welcome, Captain. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, hello to everybody. I'm acting Captain Pauole. A couple weeks in But I have been in the district for almost 3 years now. And maybe some of you already know me. I definitely know Patti Cook and the councilman I've met several times too. So we have new community police officers, Justin Commenting, who joined us from North Kohala. And from Kona district, that's now in our district, is community police officer Chandler Nasino. Also here today, we have our North Kohala community police officer, Officer Tagaka, who is here to just watch and see what we're doing here, and maybe something he might consider implementing in the North Kohala district. But I definitely like to thank everybody for supporting us. I'd like to let you guys know this month we've had an outstanding month as far as enforcement. Our traffic enforcement, we've arrested 18 suspected DUI individuals, which is double of what we normally do. We've had a large amount of drug cases that we've had arrest on, and we've had a few purge and theft cases that we've been able to clear, which is a very big feat because our theft and burg cases, you know, if we don't have the evidence there to lead us to a suspect, it just becomes a reporting process. So those are very good things that helped us out with. And like I said, we had a good month and we hope to continue that. And one thing I'd really like to stress, and I've been telling our new community police officers,
Unfortunately, it looks like we just lost them there. We'll see if they jump back in and we can have them join us. So I'm gonna just, in that meantime, I'm just gonna have a couple other announcements here. So let's see if they come back in. But the family food truck fundraising that I think you're all familiar with, that's happening at Anna Ranch, will be held on this upcoming Friday, which is April 9th. And that's held from 3 to 7 p.m. So that's the family food truck fundraiser at Anna Ranch that you're all familiar with. I'm going to jump over to, let's see. All right. I don't think I'm jumping back in here. Not a problem. So I'm going to welcome in one of our first council members. Yeah, Captain. Sorry, are you there, Captain?
Yeah, sorry, I had one more message. I was almost.
No worries.
No worries. Difficulty with connectivity. It goes in and out. I just want to see what you guys can do to help us out with reaching out to your constituents, your neighbors, your community members. Please have everybody lock their doors. There's one way we can stop the crime is lock the doors to your homes, lock the doors to your vehicles. Don't leave your vehicle keys in the car. A lot of crime is based on crime of opportunity. And with that, we can definitely slow the theft and the stolen vehicle cases and entries into vehicles and burglary cases. And that's basically all I have. My door is open. Feel free to come to the station if you want to talk story. And of course, you can reach me at the Waimea Police Station. Thank you.
Mahalo, Captain, to you and your community police officers. We look forward to seeing them in the community and supporting us. Thank you so much for all that you do and your service. It looks like we lost them again there. So we really appreciate all that you do in our community, your service and your support. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Next up, we're going to hear from our county council members on some updates for both of our Waimea councilors. And so at first, I would like to welcome Councilor Heather Kimball to share with us some news and some happenings at the council level. Councilor Kimball, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Nice to see you all again. And as always, thank you for the invitation to come by and talk with you folks. I think I'll start tonight talking about our visit that we had from Senator Schatz 3 weeks ago. He came and spoke to us a little bit about the American Rescue Plan. What we understand at this point is that Hawaii County will be directly receiving $39 million. That will come in 2 tranches. The first one coming within 60 days of the signing of the order. So we should be seeing that shortly. And then the second tranche will come a year later. And we will have until December 2024 to expend all of those funds. Unlike the CARES package, which had really pretty restrictive usage requirements, this new round of funding can be used for more things, such as plugging holes in providing public services that have been caused due to lack of revenue, supporting certain infrastructure efforts, particularly around broadband and broadband access, which has been something I've personally been trying to champion for our county. This is in addition to another 12 million, I understand from his office, that will come for rental assistance for our county, as well as those direct payments that people have been receiving, and the additional child care tax credit, which is just a fabulous addition, lifting so many children out of poverty, and something we're really grateful for. Our state, as a total, will get 6.1 billion. 1.6 of that is going directly to the state legislature, and we will hopefully see some of that also allocated towards county projects. And Tim Richards and I am sure will be actively working over these next few months to speak to our friends at the state level to make sure that some of that does come our way. The other thing that is part of this package is $3 billion in economic development grants. And one of the things of note with regard to those funds is that 25% of those funds have been designated for communities that are tourism-based and have been particularly hit hard by the lack of tourism revenue. So Hawaii should do well in terms of our ability to access those grant funds. The other thing that I know you had Director Kern and Director Rodenhurst at your last meeting. I've been working closely with them on the InterGov project, which is the online permitting process that is scheduled to go live in mid-July. Everything is looking good so far with them currently in the public testing phase. And I just want to mahalo the administration. They've let me be a part of the conversations about InterGov, and it's been a real collaborative effort. I have some experience in technology transfer, and so they've been really wonderful in reaching out and allowing me to contribute to the process of getting this online, which I think will be not only important in terms of expediting the permitting process, but improving government transparency and accountability. So I'm excited to see us getting that project underway. Councilmember Richards and I, along with Councilmember Loy and Councilmember Karkowitz, were also part of our annual grant and aid program. We had 2.5 billion to distribute, and at the next council hearings this coming week, next week, our report from our ad hoc committee will be out. And I just wanted to share some lessons learned about that. We did things a little differently, as I understand it, being new to the council. I don't know in full detail how it was done in the past, but we used the change framework to break out the various programs into the categories of community and economics, health and wellness, arts and culture, natural environment, government, and education. And within each of those sectors, there were specific questions that we asked to see how the different community groups were meeting some of those needs in those categories. What I will say, just at a super high level, and I hope Tim adds some to this in his perspective, there is tremendous need across our island in a variety of ways, but there is also amazing capacity and just a lot of great groups doing wonderful work on the ground for our community. And one of we had, I believe it was around 260 total applications. One of the really critical things that I keep mentioning to folks is that one category of government and civic engagement, there were no applications that fell into that category. So looking ahead to next year, definitely encouraging folks to look at programs that might help develop civic engagement. I'm particularly looking at programs with Laupahoehoe School, trying to get their students engaged and interested in the political process. Other things that I'm working on is getting an assessment of my district. I just came in the door right before this meeting started from a drive up there in Pauole Mauka, looking at the roadways and the bridges up there. District 1 has the most bridges, the most cemeteries, the most parks, and the most wastewater treatment plants, all of which are in various stages of disrepair. But I am learning a lot about where we need to be careful in terms of emergency and disaster preparedness. One of the things that I'm trying to do with my assessment of all of the various bridges is to determine which neighborhoods and areas might be cut off in the event of emergency, and preparing evacuation routes and making sure that CERT teams are in that area or they have radio access, things like that. I know that Councilmember Richards shares a strong passion for making sure that our communities are protected in the event of a natural disaster. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, I know we've been getting a lot of complaints and concerns about solid waste management, illegal dumping, challenge people putting things they shouldn't in at the transfer stations, and also the inability to do anything with green waste. And so I am working with Director Ramsey Mansour, who is our new environmental management director, who is just really an enthusiastic guy. I'm very excited to be working with him on putting together a presentation on solid waste management plans sometime in the next couple of weeks. And what I'll be doing is I'll be inviting all of the presidents of the various community associations, including James, to attend this meeting with Ramsey. So if you have questions about solid waste management or concerns, please share them with James, or you can email me directly, heather.kimball@hawaiicounty.gov, and we'll make sure that information gets communicated to Ramsey and then also dispersed. Hopefully James can provide a report after the meeting takes place. And thank you again for your time, and everybody go get vaccinated and stay safe. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Councilor Kimball. Thank you so much. Grateful for your leadership and supporting our communities along Hamakua, including here in parts of Waimea. So thank you so much. And next up, I would like to welcome our other councilor, Councilor Tim Richards. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, James. Let me run a timer here so I don't run afoul of our timeline. Patti can't yell at me too loud. We'll just keep her on mute. Aloha, Val. Long time no see. Good to see you. And well, great to see everybody else. Just touching bases on a few things. Councilwoman Heather and I are actually crossing trails quite a bit. Yes, we share a border and we share Waimea, but actually we're sharing a lot more than just that. It's some of the initiatives, some of the directions we're headed. A big shout out to Josh Green to talk about the vaccination. I've received both vaccinations, both doses, and I think I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't even realize I was vaccinated. I had a slight headache after the second one, so that worked out pretty well. But I completely agree with what Josh is talking about. Got to maintain our hygiene and our social distancing as we go through this. So we collectively as leaders in the community must keep that message going forward. That being said, I'm very optimistic, like Lieutenant Governor. I think we're going to get things starting to open up. And so with that, let's dive into a few of these things. There's never enough time to discuss everything we want to, but I'll touch on a few things real quick. Had a meeting, Planning Director Kern and Public Works Director Rodenhurst concerning moving the EnerGov forward. I did meet with both of them, and actually we did a field trip here in Waimea yesterday. We're trying to look at how we're going to be able to move things forward, specifically when it comes to agriculture and the permitting process to get things up and running. So they're working on that. Everybody on this call knows I'm all about agriculture. I'm trying to figure out figure out the ways to move that forward. I also then took Director Rodenhurst on a field trip, and with James, and we ran through Waimea and we ran through Waikoloa to look at the different things. Specifically in Waimea, is Kahu Billy still on the call? We went by and looked at the potential for putting in speed humps on the Mana area that just got repaved to control some speed. Val, out next to Kanuokaina, we put that forth as far as putting speed humps through Kanuokaina and helping maintain some of the traffic speed over there. So we need to talk story about that going forward. I need community involvement to actually get that done, but I think it's very, very possible. Again, we toured and looked at the different things as far as the road needs. And more specific to Waikoloa, but also that Waikoloa connecting road from Mauka to Makai, the resurfacing of that. And then we had our discussions about Waikoloa Village proper, specific as it relates to the intersection as well. So all that is going well. I told Heather, and I will back up Heather on some of the conversations. Great to hear coming out of Washington, D.C., the potential, or actually the 39 million for our county. Mention of Donnie Sheether's program. And I tell you, Donnie has just knocked it out of the ballpark with the work she has done. She's been able to get these things done. What'd you say, Val? 20,000 meals? I mean, unreal, but this is what our community needs. This is what our county needs. But we also need the funding to get this done. So we have to be mindful of that as we go forward. And I am looking for funding. Some of the funding came out of the CARES Act, helped Donnie. And we have to be mindful of this. And Heather and I will be working on this to be sure we can find the funding to keep these programs going forward. There's also another program coming out of DC potentially, and they're just starting to kick it around. It's actually what we have now before us, the Rescue Act, is 1.9 trillion. They're talking about a $3 trillion act, and it's for infrastructure. And this is where Heather's talking about. She's evaluating her district for bridges and wastewater and all that. Us too. And when I say us too, I'm talking the county. We need to look at this and start planning to see if we can capitalize on some of this to take us forward. And if we can find the right funding to get done what we need to get done, it's our belief that the funding will be there, but we have to be ready to take it. So we have to start planning now. So that's actually, I'm optimistic that we're going to see some of that coming forward. So with that, Heather also mentioned the grant and aid program. And I tell you, I sat on it a couple of years ago, and then I'm back on it. I've never seen the need greater than what we have before us today. There was a request for over $7 million, and we only have $2.5 million. And I give the ladies on this, the ad hoc committee, Ashley, Sue, and Heather, large kudos for changing the metrics of how we're trying to figure out the best way to award the funding. And this group talked to people. What we're looking for is the metrics where people we're getting more bang for the buck, meaning there's synergy between groups. So we're not repeating the same bureaucracy. And if we can find that, that's where we've been really trying to focus. And again, I think most people have heard me say, I want to feed kids. When it comes to this pandemic, we've got to get food in front of our people, and that's part of the program. I know I'm running out of time, James. So I just wanted to, again, echo, thanks so much for the invitation here. Oh, one thing final thing I want to touch on. Shout out to the police department, Lieutenant Pauole, and we had an incident in the park yesterday. Some of you may have seen it on social media. I've been in communication with the police department, with Parks and Rec, with the mayor to discuss that situation specifically. Lieutenant, thank you so much for getting the officer out there. 12 minutes between the call going in until an arrest was made. So this happened very, very quickly, and our police really jumped in. But there's a larger conversation to be had. Homeless is more than just, moving people out of the parks. We have a bigger conversation. So thank you very much, Lieutenant, and thanks to your officers for getting this thing done. But we have a larger conversation to have, and it's being had right now. And Heather, this is another thing that you and I are going to have to work on going forward. So I know I'm out of time. James, thank you so much. Group, everyone, thank you so much for having us here. And I'm going to stay on if there's any other questions Heather and I can field. So thanks, James. Aloha, everyone.
Thank you, Councilor Richards, and thank you, Councilor Kimball, once again. Appreciate both of your updates and the leadership you provide for our communities. We'll keep you on. If there are questions, we can probably approach them at the end here. So I'm going to move on. And as I mentioned earlier, there is just one announcement again, just a reminder that the Family Food Truck Fundraiser at a Ranch will be on Friday, April 9th from 3 to 7 p.m. And the really only big announcement from us today is that Waimea Community Association wants to thank you and our viewers. This is what we've been talking about in the past and why we're holding these calls and these particular individuals on this call here. To really thank you, our viewers and fellow community members, for continuing to do your part in preventing the spread of COVID-19 by wearing masks, practicing good physical distancing, avoiding large gatherings, and helping to maintain a low rate of infection in our communities. Please also be aware of any continued COVID scams, especially around the vaccine. Please continue to do your part for the health and safety of our community and our loved ones. This is our kuleana, and we hope that you will consider being vaccinated when the time is right and opportunity is presented to you. So mahalo. And if for whatever reason, if you and part of a community group and you would like assistance in reaching out to the wider Waimea community, please do not hesitate to reach out to us and email us at waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com. We'd be happy to help broadcast your event on social media platforms or here during one of our particular town meetings. All right, and so as we continue our conversation about COVID-19 and its impact on our community, distribution of vaccines and measures being taken by our county, our medical providers, and our community leaders, I would like first to welcome to share a few words with us this evening, Dr. Claren Kealoha-Beaudet, who is with Kipuka Okeola Native Hawaiian Health Clinic. So Dr. Kealoha-Beaudet, the floor is yours for a couple minutes here.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha Auntie Val. It's been a long time. Aloha everyone. Seems like as I look at your faces, I feel the need to want to aloha you in person. So I cannot wait for that time. I'd like to encourage our lahui to get vaccinated. It's important. As a psychologist at Kipuka Okeola, I see more often, it's our young people, our teenagers and our keiki that are probably suffering the most in regard to the social isolation. They need each other. They need to see each other. They need to talk stories. They need to learn. They need to play sports. In clinic, that is probably the biggest issue that we see is lots of teenagers coming in with depression, anxiety, maybe even lots of family issues going on, domestic violence, substance abuse. So for this reason, I believe the term "it takes a village" is more than ever so important. We need our connection to our community to kind of water down the tension in the ohana. Everyone needs each other. So I encourage my lahui, please get vaccinated. It's important, it's important. So if not for yourself, then please for your community. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate your words there and your wisdom. Thank you for joining us this evening. And next up, I would like to welcome, let's see who we have here on the call. We have representing Queens North Hawai'i Community Hospital. I'd like to welcome Dr. James Madison, who is also the medical director here at our local hospital. Welcome, Dr. Madison. Thank you for taking the time to update the community on the happenings at North Hawai'i Community Hospital.
Thank you all for inviting me and allowing me to be a part of this. I've really enjoyed hearing from everybody tonight. I am the chief of staff at Queens North Hawai'i Community Hospital. And tonight I can report to you that we have.
Sorry, Doctor, you're just muted there. Unfortunately, sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that. Please go ahead.
No worries. I just wanted to thank everyone for letting me participate tonight and provide a quick update from the Queens North Hawai'i Community Hospital. I'm Dr. James Madison and I'm chief of staff. And I'm happy to report that North Hawaii has been really leaning in to try to vaccinate as many people as possible. We today passed our 11,000th shot for vaccination. Today, we received a report from the State Department of Health regarding the VAMS metrics, which is the Vaccination Administration Management System developed by Department of Health. And Queens North Hawaii, the 34-bed facility right here in town, is in the top 10 of all facilities across the state in numbers of vaccinations administered. So, this wouldn't have been possible without the support of the Queen's health system and their contribution to it. So, a lot of people deserve to be patted on the back for this, Queens and then our administrative teams. But we're working as hard as we can and trying to vaccinate as many as we have been able to vaccinate.
Thank you, Dr. Madison. And we'll keep you on here if we have some specific questions from the community that you might be able to answer, if you don't mind.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the call and it's good to meet you. Next up, I would actually like to welcome in one of our community members, and Dr. Ah Loy, for a couple words here to share with the community. And I'll make sure you're unmuted there, Dr. Ah Loy.
Can you hear me now?
Well, Doctor, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Well, James asked me, or Patti Cook asked me to talk about vaccines, and maybe it's because there's this hesitancy, and that's not just with COVID vaccines, but all vaccines. People are somewhat reluctant for whatever reason, conspiracy, et cetera. So I thought I'd just share a little bit. Just kind of this whole experience, global, local, US, has brought the best and maybe the worst in a lot of people, and kind of makes me think about this phrase that was cited by somebody attributed to Albert Einstein. I'm not for sure it was him, but it sounded good. And that is, he said, or he supposedly had said, that there are only two things that are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. And sadly, we see that a lot, of people being criticized for asking people to wear masks, etc. And we should not be afraid to stand up and speak up, and not be violent, but use what Val said, use the Aloha spirit, and just remind people when they're acting out of line or stupid, if you want to use the vernacular. But, just taking a glance at myself and others, globally, US, locally, this cases of COVID is real, and it doesn't look like it's going to go away soon, which is associated mortality, morbidity, prolonged illness, not even to mention the impact on our economics, as everyone can attest, and our lifestyle. We're social people, especially in Hawaii. So vaccines appear to be the most promising approach to curbing this pandemic, not only just to protect ourselves and our community, but to curb the global pandemic. And currently there are 3 vaccines we're pretty much all aware of. I'm going to say things that most people are aware of already, but I thought I'd talk about the vaccines themselves and how they develop, and maybe it'll help to dissuade some of the anxiety people might have about wanting to or deciding to have the vaccine themselves. The 3 vaccines are available to us now that have been developed, have reached the level where they went through several phases to get to where they are now. Before vaccines get developed, they go through a thing called preclinical trials, and that's with animals. And they'll give that, usually a primate in case of COVID, and they give the vaccine to the primate and see if it's toxic, they can handle it, and see if they develop an immune response. And if they do, they'll give them a wild type virus, the SARS-CoV vaccine, and see if they work. And then if they find promising vaccines, then they go on to phase 1. And this is where they give it to human subjects, usually healthy, small numbers, maybe not more than 100, and they'll vaccinate these people, and then they'll see what the toxicity might be in humans, and they also look at if they stimulate an immune response. Then if they look pretty good, they go to phase 2, where they give a larger number of subjects checking immunity again, and again looking more specifically at safety and what can be viewed as an effective and a safe vaccine before going on to the 3rd trial, which is to see the efficacy in the natural environment. That's where they give it to more and more people, and they see how people respond. And they'll randomize it. Some people will get the vaccine, some people get the placebo, and they'll look at those 2 groups where they get natural infection and how they respond. So the 3 vaccines, I'll just go quickly, which we all know about already by now. The Pfizer one, which had the first given approval, extramural authority to use it. And it has a significant efficacy around 95%. Now, none of these vaccines have gone head to head. These are just in their own clinical trials. So 95% efficacy is really, really good. I mean, the best you can see sometimes is the influenza vaccine is maybe 50 or 60. So to have a vaccine such as this come out with that kind of number is amazing to me. And to get it out in such a short time, this is months versus years, which is typical vaccines go through. It is an mRNA vaccine, mRNA meaning it's a messenger RNA, and it has coded within it parts of the virus, the spike protein, which is supposedly the one that attaches to our mucosa, starts the infection going. So it prevents that from happening or minimizes it from happening and getting into our system. And our body then generates or makes these small little proteins. Then our immune system responds to that and makes antibodies. And that's how it works. The second one is by Moderna. Very similar. It's an mRNA vaccine as well. And it does pretty much a similar thing. It's in the 90+% efficacy, and it's fairly safe. Both of these vaccines, when they look at adverse outcomes, serious ones is what I get concerned about. Anaphylaxis, which is a severe allergic reaction, occurs about 4 to 5 per million doses, which is pretty low. And most of these patients, I'd say 80% from what I've read, are in people who already have some history of allergies. So the most common side effects are headache, like some people mentioned, maybe some arm soreness for a day or so. A couple people in our office, they got kind of sick for a while with fatigue for a day or two, but for the most part, pretty well tolerated. And the last one, the third one, is made by Johnson & Johnson, put up by Janssen. It is a little different. It is a virus, an adenovirus like the cold virus, and incorporated within that virus is this protein template so that our body can then see that and recognize that as a foreign virus. It's not a COVID virus, but it's just a part of the protein, and then we make antibodies against it. It's really kind of interesting to kind of see what these things can do. So basically, I hate to use the word basically, but essentially, these vaccines have gone through rigorous scrutiny, looking at toxicity, adverse outcomes, and efficacy. And I'll tell you, I'm a believer of this vaccine, and I've promoted it in our office, and pretty much all of our staff have gotten the vaccine. I understand the hesitancy because I have family members in my own family say, "Oh, I'll never get that vaccine," and I'm as hard as I try, sometimes I just can't convince them. So the alternative is to be strict with your PPEs, and you can look at the woman who was the first recipient of the vaccine as an example how PPEs can work. And that was a nurse in New York, and she took care of COVID patients for a year, never got infected. So we know that protective gear does work, masks, face shields, gloves, when you're in the setting of people who are infected. So PPEs do work. But in the meantime, I think this is probably the most promising experience or event that has happened to us. It's come quickly, and I'm amazed at the availability of it and how our state has embraced trying to get it out to as many people as possible. And I think that you get it out to a certain critical number, even if you don't vaccinate everybody, then I think we'll see those numbers dwindle. I hope that helps. I hope that helps to encourage people to kind of look again and to think again, to go ahead and get that vaccine for themselves, their family, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Dr. Ah Loy, I appreciate your time with us here and your words of wisdom.
Sure.
Cool to have you. Thank you, Ron.
You bet.
And yeah, absolutely. It's good to see you. And next up, I'd like to welcome, we have here PA Christopher Russell, who is the medical director at, excuse me, at West Hawaii Community Health Center. Chris, the floor is yours when you're ready. And thank you so much for joining us and updating the community. Thank you.
Awesome. Really great to be here. Aloha, everyone. Yeah, I'm Chris Russell, medical director at West Hawaii Community Health Center. Been a part of the health center and on the island for 10 years. And just wanted to take a moment to share with you. I'm going to share my screen here and share with you some efforts that we are doing to mitigate this virus. So let's see, there we go. All right. So we are, from the beginning of the pandemic, we've been doing testing every day to test our community, and we continue to do so. But as we've shifted now to vaccinations, as that is the light at the end of the tunnel, West Hawai'i Community Health Center has been vaccinating now for several weeks, almost 3 months now. And just wanted to kind of give you a little peek of what we're doing. We kind of have a combination of things that we're doing. But before I do that, I just wanted to, for those that don't know West Hawai'i Community Health Center, we serve over 18,000 patients in the West Hawai'i region, 90-mile corridor that we cover up to Kauai, Waikoloa Village, and then all the way down through Kealoha-Beaudet and south. We're one of 3 health centers on the island, and you guys have one closer to you, Hamakua Health. We have 5 clinics, like I said, and we're always expanding and growing. We have 20 medical providers, 10 behavioral health, and 7 dentists, a very robust group. And when the challenge of vaccinating came up, we all said yes. What can we do to make this happen? Just an FYI, I know Josh kind of talked about this already, but on our island specifically, we are, this is where we're at as of today, pushing 30% have at least had 1 dose. So we're getting there, but we do have a ways to go, and I do fully see us increasing this dramatically over the next few weeks. So we have, as of tomorrow, once we get through tomorrow's clinic, we will have pushed almost 5,000 vaccines out to the community. We are ramping up to doing at least 1,000 a week moving forward, and have a combination of doing vaccinations in our clinic for our patients through the week. And then on Fridays, we're doing a mass vaccination effort, which is at the Kona Aquatic Center. And we are doing walk-ins, which means you do not have to be a patient. You do not have to go onto the internet and figure out how to sign up for anything. You just show up and we take care of the rest. And so I believe that we are the only ones on the island that are doing that at this point. I know that they were DOH was talking about doing that more. But at this point, we wanted to make it as simple as possible, take away all the barriers that we can so that everybody can get vaccinated. Currently vaccinating 55 plus, high-risk conditions, younger, essential workers. However, as Josh Green mentioned, we are opening things up to everyone very quickly. Last week's vaccine effort, I'll have to just mention, it was a holiday and we didn't expect that. And so we had planned for 600 vaccines and we actually get extra doses out of the vaccine. So we had 660 doses, and towards the end of the day, we had about 90 doses left and we were panicking because we did not want to waste a dose. So we got very creative and actually had called out to Target down the road and asked them to announce over the loudspeaker that there were vaccines down the road. And they actually did it. They actually agreed to do it. And people dropped their carts and ran over to the gym and got vaccinated. We had some of the staff from Target also get vaccinated. So all that to be said is we don't want the barriers, and the CDC guidelines are important, but we are now to the point where we just need to get everybody vaccinated. And so we are taking down those barriers. We are also doing some focused vaccine clinics for special populations. We're going to ramp something up for the homeless here shortly. Farm workers. We did a clinic for a Native Hawaiian group up in the Hawaiian homelands, and then some other hard to reach populations further south. We are hoping to get more. Right now, we just have the Moderna vaccine, but we are hoping to get more or to start having the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which would allow for 1 dose for some of those hard to reach populations that we might not see for that second round. Our Friday efforts are a team approach. Lee Health Center has graciously helped out with some staff, and then the National Guard, we couldn't do it without them. So it's been awesome, as well as the police force. We've had several police officers that have come down and helped with crowd control, so it's been great. I just wanted to briefly show you some photos here. So this is right before we started, I think, our first vaccine clinic. It is now a well-oiled machine, I will say. I will brag about it a little bit, that we are doing a phenomenal job and really making the experience not a scary one. I know people are stressed out about the vaccine. It's the last thing they need is more stress in regards to the process. And so we make it seamless. Our heart is that everybody that walks through that door is our patient for the next 30 to 45 minutes as they go through the process. So that's part of our team there. But there's many others, including, I have to shout out to Park and Rec crew. They are awesome as well, and have helped with the facilities and the management of that. We have a pharmacy team that works on drawing up perfectly. They're very perfect about this, and that's how we get our extra doses out of the vials. So we have three pharmacists, or at least two, that are working with us every single Friday. In addition to that, we have at least 2 medical providers and at least 1 EMT and several RNs on staff on the premises that are monitoring people for any possible reactions. And so it's well stocked, well managed and monitored to make sure everybody is safe. We have yet to have any problems whatsoever with any kind of reactions. I wanted to share with you just a few. We have this right at the end after they get vaccinated. We have the people have the opportunity to write why they got vaccinated, and I think that this speaks volumes to the why behind why we do all this. It's not just a shot. There's a lot to it. So this one, I got vaccinated because I have cystic fibrosis and I miss seeing my family. This next one, I want to hug my grandchildren. I enjoy living. I believe in it. Duh, that's a good one. I like that one. And this guy, I'm old. That's good too. So, so this is a huge endeavor, and we are trying to expand as much as we possibly can so that we can vaccinate more. Bottom line is we need everybody's help. So just anybody that's on this call, that's in this group, anybody who feels like they have a free Friday that would love to come volunteer. We have all sorts of areas that we need help in. And you can reach out to our HR department. We can work it out so that you can come down and help us out. I love Martin Luther King's quote here: life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I think during this time, we all need to be asking ourselves that, and what we can do with what we have, with where we are. So I think that's about all I had to share at this point. I just encourage everybody to get vaccinated. You know, that rate of having a allergic reaction is, for the Moderna specifically, is 2.8 per 1 million. So if you think about the population of Hawaii, that's a very, very small amount that would actually have the reaction here. And we are prepared to respond to it. And so get out there, get vaccinated, and we're there to vaccinate you, especially on Fridays. Come on out. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Okay.
Thank you so much, Chris. Wonderful to have you join us and update the community about all the work you're doing there on the west side of the island, and just helping the community. And it's good to see those images of community members and that the placards that they have to really express why they're doing it and share out their ideas about it. And really, a lot of those are touching. You know, they really miss their families and miss seeing people. So this is really part of that effort to connect once again.
James, could we have him repeat the times for the walk-in on Friday?
Please, yes. Chris, if you could repeat that again, that'd be great.
You know what, I don't think I actually said it. I apologize. It's set for 9 to 3. 9 is when we start vaccinating, but we don't finish until we've used our doses. So sometimes we're there till 4:35 because we do not want to waste a single dose. So we do what we can to get it out to the community. So starting at 9, but for those that want to get vaccinated, should come earlier than that. Starting tomorrow will be our first round of doing dose 2 for about 500 people, but we're planning on doing 800 plus doses. So there is the first dosers as well. So just come down early. I would say probably 7:38 would be wise, just to make sure.
And the location?
That's the Kona Aquatic Center. So it's just yeah, right by the it's in the gym right next to the pool.
Thank you, PA Russell. Really appreciate your information there. And we'll keep you on hold for a little bit. I just have one more guest who's going to say a couple words. And I'd like to welcome in Makela Bruno-Kidani. Makela is a community member here in Waimea, born and raised, and she is a licensed family counselor. Makela, thank you so much for joining us. And I'll give you a few minutes to share your mind and share your words here with the community. Thank you.
Aloha, mai kako. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be asked to speak to our Waimea community this evening. I have been part of the school systems within our Punana Leo Hawaiian immersion education, and also now at Parker School as the admission director. And right now, we are in the process at Parker. We are in the process of vaccinating our faculty and administration and staff. And we've been super blessed with the hard work of our students and our school community to have been in person, since August. And we're anticipating the vaccination for students and our children worldwide when that becomes available. But I also want to speak to our local Filipino community. I want to share that my family is 3 generations who came from the Philippines to work in the sugar plantation and now in the hotel industry. And so I know there's a little bit of apprehension about getting the vaccine. And I want to share that I was at that spot too, very apprehensive and have a lot of questions. But after meeting with medical professionals, reading up on research, and I come to a decision. Well, then it was a no-brainer. It was like that duh moment because it is super important, super vital to our public health so that we can declare herd immunity. Also, for me to think about our community, our families and ourselves, so we can get back to all of the precious we miss so much. So when I see people, and I know everybody who's on the call on Zoom, but to see the faces here on this panel, I want to see when I walk or grocery shopping, I want to give her a hug. And I want to honey her, and as well as all of you. And I'm sure we all miss that human aspect of connecting as our people and people in this community especially. I am of Waimea. I want to share that this community has watched me grow and being in Waimea Elementary and Intermediate and Honoka'a High School graduate. So I just want to send, because I'm indebted to this community. So to Dr. Green, all of the medical professionals, Dr. Ah Loy, also Claren and my behavioral health colleagues, because during this pandemic we learned, we always knew, but it became more apparent that our physical and our mental health is super important. And also first responders, our county council members and our Waimea Community Association members. So mahalo, because that's what we need to keep our community together. Thank you all for keeping our community safe, for feeding our community and keeping our community informed. So mahalo nui loa. Until then, wear your mask, komo iko mapoho, wash your hands, holoi lima, physically distance, kuka avale, and stay safe. Malama pono. Aloha.
Mahalo, Makela. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you on the call and share out with the community. Thank you. We'll have a few minutes left here, so I'd love to share a little bit of this last portion of tonight's meeting, some of our community questions that we've received with our guests, those that remain on the call here. So I want to thank all of you for sending and submitting your questions at a time. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible in about these next 10 minutes here. And I want to thank once again, Patti and Nancy for helping to relay these questions. And we will try and capture any of these questions that come off of the live feed as well and intersperse them here. So Patti and Nancy, I will open the floor back up to you.
I'll let you go first, Nancy, but may I jump in momentarily? I just received a news release from Hilo Medical Center that in addition to the walk-in in Kona, on Saturday, April 3rd, they will have a walk-in for everyone 16 and older at Hilo Medical Center. There'll be news stories in the paper. You may be watching for it, but either other side of the island. Thank you. And Nancy, I'll let you go with the questions.
That's awesome. My question is from a community member, and right along those lines, they're asking how close are we to having the vaccine available to those under 16? Christopher, can you weigh in on that?
So they are currently going under clinical trials to determine that. I mean, the likelihood of it being a safety issue with kids is very, very unlikely, but they have to, do some special precautions when we're talking about adolescents. So I would expect that there will be approval for probably like a 12 and up, maybe 10 and up, but probably 12, between 12 and 10 and 12 approval up to 16 and up within the next couple of months. For the little guys, it's probably, I mean, I would hope that they would get to it before fall so we could get that going for schools, but I don't expect that probably till late summer at the very earliest. Just want to be precautious, but again, I think it's going to be completely safe and will become routine vaccination.
Thank you. I had one more question for either Heather or Tim. The testing, extra testing that we're doing at the Kona airport, do you know how long that's going to remain in effect?
I can jump in and answer that. It's costing our county right now about $100,000 a month to do that. Excuse me, $100,000, 1.5 million a month. So it was at 3 million a month, but now it's down to 1.5 million a month. It's going to run as long as the funding is there. With some of the funding coming out of DC, we may have funding a little bit longer to run it. But budgets are tight right now. So I'm going to guess, and this is off the top of my head, but we'll probably look at it through the start of our next fiscal year, which is July, and it depends on our funding at that point.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patti.
I wanted to actually, if I may ask Makela, both Parker and HPA have been open with all kids there and face-to-face instruction. Could you just do a brief description or explanation of the experience? I think I know elementary and the middle school are both starting to bring children back. Elementary has quite a number and there's a lot of mitigation. It isn't very much fun to be at school these days. But would you just talk momentarily about what it's been like to bring kids back?
Sure. We have been, as I mentioned before, we have been in person since August. And what we have done is all of our school community members, from students, families, teachers, and administrators and staff, had all signed an agreement that, that we're complying to safety measures, not only on campus, but also outside of campus, because we wanted to be sure that we're keeping our school open for kids, knowing that again, would be the best way for them socially, physically, academically, that they're in person. So we do have a safety team who meets regularly, and they closely monitor research in our community, statewide, nationally, and globally, and that kind of drives the decision making, for our school. We do our regular temperature checks. Everyone is masked all day from kindergarten to 12th grade. And we've not had too much problems. I think in the beginning it was just, getting used to it. And now it's become second nature. The difficulty is, keeping the physical distance, but, gentle reminders, sometimes, even with ourselves, right? Reminding ourselves that, okay, let's, stay apart. And so we've outfitted, our classes with plexiglass and, other measures for safety, one-way areas in certain parts of the school where it does, get congested. We're super fortunate to be on 23 acres of open land where outside classroom, outside learning can happen on the lanai. We also erected a big white tent for outside learning as well. So it's been, for me, when I see and hear the students' laughters and see the joy in their eyes when they get to see their friends and be there in their classes with their teachers is just it's golden. So yeah, it's been a hard experience, learning experience, but a great one.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
James, did you want to say anything about it? Because you're teaching too.
Well, I don't know if I can be the spokesperson for the school I'm at, but definitely it definitely, back when Makela says, the encouraging the distance of the students is always they do need gentle reminders, but masks has become second nature. I know I've seen and heard stories within the HPA community of kids getting back in their cars, going home with their parents, and they still want to keep their masks on. They're just so used to wearing it at the school day that it's just second nature to just be at home with it on as well. But yeah, it's just encouraging and reminders about washing hands. The distance that's kind of the thing, but otherwise it's been going pretty well and keeping the kids healthy and safe. Always a few scares every now and then, but it always works out, and both institutions have been able to tamp down on any sort of potential outbreaks. So there has been, it's been good there.
Doable. It's hopeful.
Absolutely. And Patti, Nancy, did you have any other questions for our guests?
No, that's it.
All right. And Dr. Madison, did you have any, I know you're still on the call with us here. Did you want to have any last words to say to the community? And Dr. Russell, if you had anything else as well, you're welcome to jump in here if you want to say your last words. So Dr. Madison, if you'd like to say any last couple words.
So actually, the biggest thing that I would want to plug or point out is that becoming vaccinated is very important, and I want everybody to think about the vaccination situation as an altruistic effort that you're giving back so that your community is safer. That's how I want the hesitant people to consider this. Also, I want to recognize that if you're in a community where you're not getting vaccinated at the same rate as, say, another community. For example, we know that the Pacific Islander community is very hesitant to getting the vaccine. This is different than, say, the Asian and the Caucasian community in terms of their willingness to do the vaccination. I think we have to be aware of this, because when it does come time where potentially we're rolling out vaccination passports as a way of allowing people to travel, I think this creates a bias and an inequity because of a lack of awareness that the vaccine is safe and that it protects you. And there's wide-reaching implications to the vaccine passport that I want us to really put efforts into making sure that everybody who is wanting the vaccine can get it. And so reaching out to those vulnerable populations or trying to educate on them. Dr. Ah Loy did a fantastic job of explaining the technology about mRNA vaccination or vaccines. That technology for utilizing the vehicles for mRNA vaccinations is not something that was developed at the beginning of Operation Warp Speed. It's been available and waiting for an opportunity to be used for a decade. And we just happened to have the perfect storm. We had a worldwide pandemic. We had a president that said, start making it, even if it doesn't work, we're going to buy it. And we had a vehicle that was waiting around for a purpose in the mRNA vaccine technology. So all of those came together. You don't have to look hard to find people to recruit for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, while hundreds of millions of Americans are dying from the virus. So we just had this unfortunately perfect storm where the scientific community could take technology that already existed, apply it to a pandemic that would create opportunity for people to want to become test subjects, and then a financial checkbook that was basically blank, write in whatever number you want to fund all your research. And that's why it happened so quickly. And that's why we had vaccines available to us so quickly, not because we cut corners or because it doesn't work or because it's unsafe or we're taking chances. It actually, science worked in this situation. So whatever translation that needs to take place in either our Pacific Islanders or our native Hawaiians or, just people who may not understand the science behind this, however we deliver that message, we have to, because it's very important to get vaccinated. And, like I said, we're investing all kinds of efforts at North Hawaii to try to get that vaccine out there. And I don't want to see further damage and unintended consequences because people didn't get a vaccine and then they're limited in their ability to travel like any other ethnicity because of lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, lack of our effort to educate and that sort of thing. So I kind of like having this opportunity, and I appreciate again being invited. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madison. Appreciate
James,
those words.
May I jump
Patti.
in for a moment? Responding to what Dr. Madison is saying, we did try to get Max Yarrow-Wamai on the program tonight, who was from YAP and is an extremely well-regarded member of the Pacific Island community here. He is not able to be with us tonight, but he is very available. So if any of us have in our work need connections and help, he's more than willing to help. He's actually from YAP, but he can connect us with folks from Coast Rai or Marshalls, the different islands. And he's he's got the connections to help us. So if you need that, I'm happy to put you together with Max. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing, James, sorry. The walk-in to Hilo Medical Center on Saturday, you do need to register. You have to go online. The link is in the Facebook page. It's been posted on the Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patti. And you also sent me another announcement about, this one last announcement here about the Food Basket Ohana Drop. And this is also coming up on Friday, April 9th. So an opportunity to support your family here. This will be at 10 a.m. at the Spencer Kalani Shudi District Park here in Waimea. So 10 a.m. Friday, April 9th for the Food Basket Ohana Drop. I really want to thank all of our guests on the call this evening, all those who were joining us earlier. So I'd just like to say a couple words before we close this evening. Mahalo nui to all of our presenters for joining, for taking the time to update our viewers and helping to lead our community here. That's very much appreciated. You're very well respected community members, and we value your ideas and your mana'o. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to all of our viewers for joining us on the live stream. It's great to have you watching. You're welcome to revisit and rewatch this recording up on the WCA Facebook page or up on the WCA YouTube channel. And I know there were a couple of questions coming in about other topics, and I apologize for not approaching those, but some of them are related to what our hope and our goal is for our next month's meeting, to have a larger conversation with the Department of Environmental Management So if you don't mind holding off your questions on those related issues, we will hopefully get those addressed at our next month's meeting. So that meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 6th. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I wish you good health, be well, aloha.